Hi there, it's Karli-Rose again. If you have an idea on your heart, maybe it's a song, a class, a community, a product, a service that just keeps tugging on your heart, asking to be brought into this world, then this video is for you. I want to offer you a 5-step framework that has been supportive for me in terms of birthing these ideas into existence. This framework you can leverage to be in alignment with who you have been created to be, the calling that God has placed on your life, and the gifts that you have been given, really the reason that you're here. So let's get into it. Step number 1, start with stillness. Listen inward. Start with quiet. Maybe it comes from a walk, a journaling session, your morning meditation, or simply a moment of stillness. Listen for what is being brought through your vessel. The whisper, the pull, it's real. They say that from still waters comes clarity. This really begins with a process of trust and a practice, a consistent practice that's built over time, just like trust is built over time. And maybe it really does come all in one moment of download and it just comes directly through you, or even it takes time and it becomes more clear over time. For me, it was a process of unraveling the very deeply rooted programs that had been applied to me from being in a very traditional accounting world. It took me literally leaving my environment, leaving the country, quitting my job based on intuition, and going to Costa Rica. I brought my guitar with me, and it was there where it was reflected back to me, sound and healing. And I didn't know what to do with that. I didn't know where that might go, but that reflection, there was a truth in it that I received that I felt based on what I received from the external environment, that I knew felt more clear and true than anything else had ever felt before. So when I returned back to the US, I just had to follow that thread. Stillness begets clarity, and it's not in the moments of chaos when you can practice stillness. And even if it's just for 5 minutes a day in the morning before you start to give and pour out your cup, this can make a huge difference. And another thing I want to share is that Jesus says that ask and ye shall receive, knock and the door will be open to you. Know that in these moments of stillness, if you have a question, if you have something that you're seeking clarity on, all you need to do is ask. It's the wisdom that you're looking for is out there, and the steps that maybe you're not going to get an entire written out plan from God, right? But you will get the next step, and these revelations will come. And what it requires is the intentionality of sitting and listening and being open to receive in those moments. So sit and listen and be receptive, and then ask, and the answer will come. If you create this conscious time to ask and listen, then it is your birthright to receive. Step number 2, define the offering. Now, once you start to hear this whisper, gently ask yourself, what form does this want to take? Is it a song? Is it a class? Is it a offering? How does this want to be brought into reality? And sit with that, right? Write it down and really allow it to evolve. This is a living idea, and just as when the spring happens and things come out of the ground and it's just a little bud, like you could never anticipate what it's going to look like because it's constantly in a state of evolution. So allow this idea to be in that same state of natural evolution and be open to it being different than what you originally think. And in fact, how I approached learning about sound healing and the power of sound in terms of a healing modality is very similar to how I approached studying for the CPA or Certified Public Accounting exams. That I took data, right? I did research. I collected interviews and knowledge from people in my community that had been doing it for a long time. And I really just started to ask and start to understand what people's needs are in this area that I'm looking to provide a service for. And then how can I align my gift to that need? Once I had this information, I started practicing on myself because I knew without a doubt that if it could help me, then I could also help other people with this too. Step number 3, create a container. So you all know that I love the mixture of soul and structure, and this is really focusing on that structure. An idea needs a container for safety and for shape. So that could look like a schedule, some sort of PDF plan, even a time frame, right? Think of SMART goals. We've all been familiar with that. And you don't need a perfect business plan from the start, just enough to hold the structure of what you're hoping to bring into existence. Think of it like you're building a safe nest for your idea. And I want to share from the accounting perspective too. This is something I see all the time with especially spiritual entrepreneurs looking to create a business. So much better to think about the separation of bank accounts or a process and a flow and having a structure of an EIN, so an employee identification number, and the structure of whether it's an LLC or an S Corp, having that at the start and having the frame of your business that then you can flow that energy into, and it has a structure and a process from the start, as opposed to getting down the line and then using your bank account, your personal bank account and your business bank account all in one. All of that kind of creates a big mess, to be honest. And so take it from me, like as much as you can separate and build the structure for what you're trying to create from the beginning, that's going to help future you. And I'm not going to get into the details of that in this video, but if you are interested in learning more or talking more about the structure of building a spiritual business, then please reach out to me because I would love to chat. Step number 4, share vulnerably. So this piece feels really, really big. It's kind of scary, and it's also where the biggest momentum starts to accrue. When you speak your offering aloud, when you start to tell other people that this is something you're wanting to do or even post it online, you're literally telling God and the world that this is where I am, this is what I'm creating, and I'm purposely putting myself in alignment with your calling on my life, and I'm taking this action. Like I mentioned earlier, really allow yourself to start small and leverage the people that you love and that you trust in order to share this with. Because I want to give the caveat here too, is this is likely where you're going to start to become more open to people who are naysayers and that tell you that this isn't going to work, or that you shouldn't do this, that it's not the right idea for you. And I want to tell you that don't listen to them. Just because they have a disillusion or a lie and have been hurt in the past about an idea that they had that they were not able to bring into existence does not mean that that is true for everyone. In fact, it's their hurt speaking, and you get to create your own new story through your own confidence in what God is asking you to create. And finally, step number 5, refine through feedback. This is really all about the practice, and it's all about collecting the information to refine and to improve. Let your offering breathe. Give it the space and the time for people to react and to respond. What really lights them up about what you're doing? What are some of their things that they resonate the most with, or what they don't resonate with at all? And let that feedback guide the next version and the next evolution of what you're creating. This is so valuable. And from my perspective, I literally would have an Excel spreadsheet that every time I would host a sound journey, I would go home and based on what people would tell me and share, I would remember that and write it down in my Excel sheet, speaking to whether it be physical or emotional or spiritual resonances that they shared, so that I was collecting this data that I could then use. Okay, I know for the future, this is what I can do differently. And I literally also created feedback forms. I love it because the Artist Powered team calls it feed forward, right? This is really sharing how the feedback, the feed forward that you're receiving can help the next iteration of what you're creating. And in some cases, I would be working with corporate partners like GoFundMe, and I would create a feedback form, like a Google form that I would send to my contact and have them share with the group that participated, so that I could get direct feedback from how people experienced in a very professional and structured format that I got a really good response rate for. So to close, this is co-creation. This is taking the next step at a time based on honoring the idea and what has been given to you by God. You and your idea and God all moving together in perfect harmony. It's truly the purpose, I believe, of existence. So remember here too is give yourself time and give yourself grace for it to change, for it to be different, for it not to be an easy straight line, right? It's going to have curves and a flow, because that's also the path of creation as well. Is life is not in a linear fashion. In fact, it's more spherical, and it can there can be high moments and there can be low moments. So expect that as part of this process too. This really requires a courage and a consistency. So pull it from within yourself and align. When you're aligning your purpose and your values and your inspiration to the needs of those around you, I feel that there's a reciprocation and there's a fuel created from that alignment that can keep you going. So even for me, it's taken me over 2 years to start to develop this and start to refine this. And I now am in a place that I never saw myself going when I started out this journey, and it's even led me to become a nomad, and it's led me to purchase a house in the place where I grew up and I never anticipated myself being again. And so allow yourself to be led and guided by this process and have a plan, but not be so tied to your plan that then you're unable to budge or flow, because there's a flexibility required here too. And of course, above all, trust in yourself, trust in your connection with God, and that when you're in alignment, you're going to be protected and you're going to be guided. It is truly your birthright. And I'm so excited for you to be surprised and for you to be guided into this journey. So last but not least, I have a to-do for you. I invite you to write down your idea. Take 10 minutes, sit down and write out what feels most true and alive for the calling that you have placed on your life. And identify 3 people, whether they're actual people that you know that can be really helpful to leverage, or even just archetypes, three different archetypes of who you want to serve, who will benefit the most from what you're bringing into the world. So sit with that, identify it, and I trust that you will get your next step from that point. So thank you for listening, and stay tuned for my next video. Bye.